I think it's really important that you create a really clear vision for not just your team, but your family of what your future can become if you pay the price. Been able to take my family on a lot of neat trips and coach a lot of baseball and wrestling and do a lot of things. And it's only because of the early day grind of getting things going to where I could afford that.
Startups with Stu is a podcast for anyone living or wanting to live the startup life, either as a founder or a team member. Your host, Stuart Draper, was a 9-time Inc. 5000 honoree before age 40. This show dives deep into the exhilarating world of entrepreneurship with guests that are seeking advice from Stu for their startup or business owners that want to share their entrepreneurial journey. Listeners always walk away with actionable ideas of what to do to take their startup to the moon. Startup life can feel like a roller coaster ride. And with Startups with Stu, you're likely to turn your roller coaster ride into a rocket ship ride. Get ready to uncover the secrets to startup success from visionary founders and savvy investors who've transformed groundbreaking ideas into thriving ventures.
This episode is brought to you today by PodUp. PodUp.com is the leading all-in-one AI-powered podcasting software. If you've ever considered having a podcast, want to get started, go to podup.com and check it out. I produce my podcast, use a variety of tools and producers that help me get everything done that I'm doing. Podallies.com is the agency I choose. If you're interested in having a podcast, you don't want to do it yourself through podup.com, I highly recommend that you go check out podallies.com and schedule a strategy call with one of their production specialists. They will be able to help you and think through everything you need to before you get started on your journey as a podcaster.
Welcome to another episode of Startups with Stu. This is probably going to be like episode 30 by the time we go live. If this is your first time with us, this is where we talk about taking your startup to the moon. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I have a live audience. We're up here at a Startups with Stu Winter Retreat. It's the second one we've held. And people are going to be asking us questions. Today with me, I have Mr. Trevor Erickson, former CMO at Stu Kent, and now the founder of Deviant Inc., and Mr. Brandon Winter, former CRO at Stu Kent, and just a legend. He's running fundraisegenius.com. You got to check it out. And we had some success. We didn't have it all figured out. We had some struggles. We'll probably dive into some of those with you guys. But the wins, high level, we grew the business to be able to support about 700,000 students in the 8 years that the three of us were together. And at the 10-year mark, Stu Kent had passed having supported over 1 million students in over 80 countries. And it was in large part thanks to the work that Trevor and Brandon did. So for the next 30 minutes or so before we take off for dinner, I wanted to open it up to you guys for some questions about our journey going from literally zero and from our own houses to then Trevor's warehouse, then to another warehouse or kind of warehouse/office space into a full office. So we have a microphone to pass out. Anyone have a burning question right out the gate for me? Yep, we're ready. Malcolm, tell us who you are, by the way. Introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Malcolm Kong, and the question that I have is, when did your wife start complaining?
Who wants to answer that one first?
I don't have a good answer to that.
I have a follow-up, just so you...
Like, complain about what?
Well, we'll just go to my actual question then. So, my actual question is, when did you decide to start raising money for student?
Before I started the business. So in the process of doing market research and business planning, I learned that, one, I was going to make money in September and January. I could probably find some online schools that would pay me monthly, but for the most part, I was going to make money twice a year. And if I was going to pay good team members to help me grow the business, then I needed to have a way to cash flow all the other months where we didn't make money, right? And so I knew that if I didn't raise money, it wouldn't work. And later tonight with Corey Smith, my first angel investor, and Steve, we'll talk about what it was like raising that money, okay? My wife, she was always my biggest fan and cheerleader. And I think with your spouse, you have to have them in your corner because it consumes so much of your brain space when you're at home and your life when you're not at home. And you're going to be on the road and you're going to be hustling and grinding, and you need someone who's always going to believe in you and limit the complaining. There are days and times where it's like hard and you go, okay, well, we need to talk about how we're going to pay the bills this month, right? And you have to address those things. But overall, I think all three of us were really blessed with wives that wanted to support us in what we were going for. It's a good question.
A thought that comes to mind with that. So when you're running a business or when you're a part of a startup, it's like it consumes your entire life at times. Like there's just seasons. And there's a lot of invisible work that goes on to just run a household. And so I think one thing that was important for me, and I probably learned it a lot further down the road with Stu Kent, was acknowledge all the work that my wife is doing to allow us to be successful at Stu Kent. Like we would not have been where we were if we didn't have like the spouses that we had or that we have. So I just think that's like critical. And I think later on with my sales leaders, like with on the revenue team, we chatted a lot about invisible work. And that happened at Stu Kent too. Like there's a lot of people behind the scenes doing a lot of things. And I remember maybe around year like 5 or 6 prepping for another one of our stratcos. It was a strategy council meeting with our executives. And it was just another chance to kind of show off the growth charts. But one of the things that Haley helped us with, our chief admin officer, was every year of Stu Kent's growth, I wanted the list of all the names of every employee that was like a part of lifting that year and that revenue growth. And that chart was pretty impactful. Like I shared that with our revenue team, like, hey, growth year 1, this is how many we had on the team, year 2, year 3, your name is here and here and here. And I think it's important for them to remember, and especially those that aren't on the revenue team, how impactful they are on that growth and that trajectory. And I would say all of the spouses and family members and friends that kind of helped them probably pick them up during some tough times along that journey and that growth trajectory. So
I think it's really important that you create a really clear vision for not just your team, but your family of what your future can become if you pay the price. Been able to take my family on a lot of neat trips and coach a lot of baseball and wrestling and do a lot of things, and it's only because of the early day grind of getting things going to where I could afford that. Who's got a question next? Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself.
John Rampton, Horse and Hound Magazine. My question is around, I had the privilege of working for Paul Allen back in the day.
Ancestry.com, Paul Allen.
Ancestry.com, Paul Allen. And it was a little startup that we were working on and grew it. And out of that company came like 20 or 30 really amazing entrepreneurs. How do you foster in a company entrepreneurship and maintain really amazing employees that go on to do amazing things but stay at your company while you're there?
Yeah. Can I go first? And then I think you guys will have some cool thoughts around this as well. One of the things that we talked about was the PayPal Mafia. And I realized fast that a lot of the people I was hiring had aspirations to be entrepreneurs. They were working for a startup because they had a gut for all things startup. They They had an appetite for that. They were okay with the idea that this might not work out, but it might go to the moon, and I want to be a part of that and watch it happen. And so I always told people, like, I love that you've come here, and I want you to stay here and be happy here, and I want to treat you right, and I want you to give your all here. But I also understand that this is a part of your career, and you'll do other things, and that'll be okay. And if you want to do entrepreneurship and you want to do that, like, I love it, because one, while you're here, you're going to think like an entrepreneur, and we need entrepreneurial minds in our startup. And two, you'll hopefully treat this like it is your startup and the first of what you're going to go be able to do next. So it was talked about a lot. I also made it really clear that if you're going to side hustle stuff, it needs to be entirely on the side. And we have to have a really good agreement in place that you can do your own thing as long as I'm paying you for my thing, right? During these hours, it's my thing. Okay, there's my take on it. Brandon, what are your thoughts?
In terms of like application, so I would say we weren't perfect at it, but one-on-ones. So monthly one-on-ones with each of my leaders, and probably quarterly with team members, like within those teams. And the first questions were usually, what do you want to learn? What do you want to accomplish in your existing role? And if they had a vision for that, then it was usually like it opened up to other things probably beyond the walls of StuKent, right? Like it was a safe space for them to just talk. And it was not just what do you want to learn, what do you want to accomplish? It's like, what's going on with your family? Like, what are your goals? Like for the revenue team, it's like high commission focus. So it's like, what are you working towards? Because the discipline and consistency is not there if they don't have something they're like striving for. And so I would say that was where most of it came into play, was like it was a safe space for them to feel like Brandon's got my back regardless of StuKent or not. But like when you do that, they're invested in StuKent. They're invested in you as a leader. And I'm excited. There's a lot of them that are starting to go off and do their own thing. And like when the timing's right, they know. And sometimes it's premature or early, and sometimes they come back after.
No Grit League story? I thought for sure you were going to dive right into one of the businesses you started while you were at StuKent.
Another just silly venture. But it was like a Spartan. You guys are familiar with Spartan races? So like Spartan races for kids at local parks. That's what it was. And it was a lot of fun. It was very, very much a hobby.
Still, I think that idea still has like tons of legs. Could go to the moon for someone.
Shout out to Dan Beck. He's doing a great job.
Spartan races themselves are trying to do it with Dan, the guy at Grit League. So yeah, I remember Brandon telling me he was doing that and worrying, and then going, you know what? The right thing to do is just cheer him on if he wants to go do that, and then just make sure he knows, like, and if he's going to stay here, he needs to be here during the day. And we made that work. It never worked out for that business, but you did it as a part of while you were still running and always delivering for StuKent, right?
I think kind of back to your question, John. From my perspective with the team members who worked with me, if they were side hustling something that was completely off topic of like marketing, I was a little bit more concerned, rather than if it was something that they were going to be spending their time outside of work that was going to make them even more valuable to our team and the company. If they were doing that, it was like, go do that all night. Like, you're going to come back tomorrow better, more skill set to help our company grow. And also, Brandon, like, timing is perfect. I don't think any of us had any side hustles like the first few years. Like, you just didn't have the time. There wasn't any extra time, in the very early stages of starting something to now go and have another thing you're trying to do as well. Once you start getting employees underneath you and a lot of the day-to-day grind of creating and building.
Wearing 15 hats kind of days.
Yeah. When you're out of that stage, then your brain does have some free time at nights to tinker on silly stuff, right? So
Yeah. So for me, like when Brandon and Trevor came to me after we partnered up with Tritium and they decided they were going to leave, I was so sad, but also so happy for them to see that they were, I teased Trevor before he even left the door, like, sticker business, bro. You're going to go sell stickers now? But Deviant Inc. is killing it. They're like the leader in the space or number 2 in the space. It's awesome. And Fundraise Genius was a genius purchase for Brandon, and he was also killing it with real estate on the side while at Stukent. So let's get the mic over to the next question here.
Hi, so I'm Tyler. Consider myself a young wannabe entrepreneur. And I feel like there's a big shift to entrepreneurism, or at least entrepreneurial ventures, from a lot of data collected, right? A lot of data-driven entrepreneurship instead of like throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing if like an idea sticks, if you will. How did you guys validate your ideas, whether it be Stukent or Deviate Inc. or Fundraising Genius? What was that process before you like invested a lot of capital or time or effort into it?
So Corey, who you're going to meet later, I came to him with the idea at Scotty's Drive-In in Idaho Falls, if you're familiar, over lunch. And I said, Corey, I'm onto an idea that I think's got legs. I just taught as an adjunct faculty member, and I think there's a better way to teach digital marketing than what BYU Idaho is doing. I said, if I can get 100 schools with 100 students to pay me $100, 100 times 100 times 100, that's $1 million opportunities. And I can do that every semester. Like, this could be $2 million a year. I'm onto something. And he, was excited with me that I might be onto something, and then said, but Stu, like, you got to go do some market research. You got to think this through and see if other schools are really as behind as BYU Idaho seems to be in your eyes. And he actually helped me find 5 students. They called over 100 business schools on my behalf. I didn't have to do it. And they didn't do it as if I was a business. They did it as if they were BYUI students calling, just doing a research project. And professors were happy to share their feedback. And the feedback was that 60% were teaching but unhappy, and 40% of universities still weren't teaching digital marketing. And that got Corey really excited and serious about the idea of maybe investing in Stukent. So that was the level of market research that we did that made me go, okay, we're really on to something here. And I think that business planning, if you go through a legit business plan, it forces that section where you have to do competitive research. And that competitive research is key. You have to do it. So
why don't you tell them what Corey was doing at the time there at BYU Idaho? Because he had that incubator, had a ton. I think that would be really interesting for them to hear about how he already had that in place to do that.
Yes. I don't want to steal too much of Corey's thunder later, but he was running what's called the Regional Business Development Center. And they would sign up businesses to hire the students from BYU Idaho to do research projects. It's a genius way to boost an economy in any area. So wherever any college is, it's something they should be considering doing. I got to do my senior capstone project with a company called Rfinity that was in the mobile wallet space, and learned a ton from that. And it's one of the places where I got to know Corey well before he ever became an investor in my startup. I'll hit more on that later.
Okay. Taking a quick break from the episode. Sorry to interrupt, but I have to take a second and thank the great team at Pod Allies that helps me produce this podcast. Startups with Stu is not an easy undertaking. It takes a lot of work and team power to get this thing done. So the team I use for my podcast, podallies.com, go check them out if you are considering a podcast. If you've thought you have a dream for a show and you want to go make it happen, go to podallies.com and book a strategy call today. I promise you won't regret it. Speaking of the show or shows, let's get back to Startups with Stu in this episode. Forgive my interruption, but if you're interested, go check out podallies.com.
I have a thought on that. Just for like, the thought that comes to mind is the more reps you have, the better your instincts become. And I tell my boys that all the time with sports, but it like relates perfectly to business as well. And I think, we've all had stuff that we've tried on the side and it's failed, or we maybe even bought into something, it failed. With the land, so I a year before I left Stuart, I was talking to a friend. He had just bought a piece of farmland in the area. He and his wife built out their first like subdivision. It was like 12 lots, a smaller subdivision. And they were interested because they sold through and they're like, we're going to do something bigger. We want to partner with you guys, with my wife and I. And we just sat down and broke down the numbers. So we saw how much they bought the land for, how much they put in the infrastructure for, how much they sold the lots for. And it was like really simple math. And it was like a really simple plan, like business plan for me to like follow and say like, okay, I'll give my entire life savings back again, like to this next land project. And that's what we did. So we just started knocking on doors of farmers, offering like coming with LOIs in hand, because we knew like at what price point on the like price per acre we needed to get in order to make it successful. And so that's kind of how we operated. And it was like, I was in an excavator, like digging ditches, and like my boys were out there laying the pipes. So like it was a family experience, but, and we were digging, like the guy that was doing the excavation work on the roads was getting gravel from this pit that he was digging down the road. And it was like, we were just getting scrappy, which a lot of land developers, like they're paying top dollar to get it done fast. But for us, it was like, I have to do it on like nights or weekends. So, but I think you got to figure out like, what is the price I'm willing to go in at? And then how long am I willing to hang on if it takes 10 years for this business to like do what I think it will do? Like think that long term with it and just be willing to be patient. I'm telling myself that because I'm sometimes not very patient. We just talked about this at dinner.
Yeah. And how much, Trevor, is data like worth waiting for, right? I think in startups, sometimes we waste too much time waiting for data to tell us for sure it's the right move.
I like what keep picking on you, John, but at dinner you were talking about kind of what type of business you look for. And it was like very clear, you know where your competitive advantage is, and we're trying to find businesses that lack that so that you can insert that, right? And that's your superpower to go purchase, something that's doing this and use your superpower to get into doing this, right? And so I'm not, I should probably be more of a data guy, but I like to side with John of knowing what my superpower is and exploiting that and finding opportunities where that can.
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes with marketing ideas, isn't it like better to just go to work and spend a little bit of money and look at the data on the idea versus trying to validate the idea without just putting it to use?
So there's a concept out there, right? 80% and done is better than 100% and never finished. Mm-hmm. And that one was hard. I think it was kind of hard to pump that into your brain a few times of like, you're like, it's not perfect. Yeah, but it's done. And we can move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And we're not just sitting there spinning, trying to get something to be absolutely perfect, right?
Yeah.
Which rarely happens anyways, so.
Yeah. And I think when Trevor jokes like that, it's not a joke, it's the truth that like sometimes the CMO has to just push the founder to move forward, and the founder has to sometimes tell engineering, hey, this has got to be done by here, and we're going to go with whatever it gets to here. Like there's a lot of give and take and push and pull, and as long as you spend time snowmobiling together, then when you have to butt heads around a conference table, it's easier, right? And so we did some of that to help us remind each other that we really did like each other, just not every day around the conference table. Who's got the next question for us? Anyone have a burning question? We only have time for 2 more questions.
Jason Morris, Impact Equity. My question is around, you jump into a startup and you've got all the belief in the world that you can't fail. And now you've taken investor dollars, and so you really can't fail. At what point, and maybe you can identify at what point and what occurred when you felt like you were over the hump of, all right, what we really thought is real and it has potential, and you broke through that glass ceiling into the next level of success to go to the next tier.
So can you restate your question for me? I'm trying to understand. So there's the investor side, but then you're going into the next level with the investors. Like, what are you referring to in that regard?
I guess to plainly put it, at what point did you get away from like, okay, we're not going to fail. Like we're there.
Okay.
And you broke through the ceiling. And I think sometimes people get into this phase of, I don't know if I really can be successful. And then they get stuck there because either they're afraid of it or they're just worried that they'll never get through that ceiling, and they just deal with the insane place of we're here, right?
Yeah.
What happened where you got over we're out of the red zone, we're not going to fail, and you threw gas on the fire and broke the ceiling into the next stratosphere of success?
Yeah.
I could go for it. So I think we were lucky in our in StuCamp, because from day one we had a product that was first in the world, and
we could confidently tell the world
that there just was not, like, this thing was not out there, and it was a hot product. It's digital marketing, it's social media marketing. And so from day one, it wasn't like we were questioning, no one even wants this. Like, what are we doing? We're wasting our time here. And so the power of having, and like Stu pumped that till the end, like
first in the world.
If you can find a first in the world of whatever it is, the power that you have to keep pumping that and getting the entire team on board to,
go ahead. No, when you say pumping, like, what I would do was like just restate it over and over again and remind the team to say it over and over again. And it was on the website, and it was in our emails, in our email content, and everywhere we were talking, we were first in the world. And I drove that message home in a lot of different ways. But one of the ways that I drove it home is I got everyone in the room and I said, there are very few people that get to have a time in their career where they get to sell something that no one else in the world has to offer. We got an ace. When we got our cards dealt, there's an ace in this hand. And like, none of us can take that for granted. And if you find me being pushy, if you find me being overly excited about what we got going right now, it's because I know we've been dealt a hand that only a stupid person would lose. Like, it would take, we aren't stupid around here. We are going to find a way to make sure that we win with a hand this good. Don't lose with a hand this good. We have something first in the world. It was just like on broken record.
So maybe to like finish and polish off your question, and this is probably the word for Stu, because he felt it more than us, but probably when we didn't have to bridge the gap financially is probably when you were able to relax a little bit, right? In between semesters of revenue coming in.
Yeah.
It was like we knew it was going to get there eventually, but the first few years, obviously it took.
So there was a revenue point where you felt like you had got through the hump of the what if, and now you're at like,
yeah,
but the first in the world, but yeah.
But we never stopped going all in every year. So we never had profits in our 8 years prior to our private equity. It was always retained earnings to reinvest in the business. And so we literally were always putting all of our chips back on the table that it was going to go and deliver the next fall semester. And it kept delivering each semester into the future, as long as we kept taking a bet on, oh, we need to add more salespeople. Oh, we need to add another marketing manager. Oh, we got to sign another author. Like, oh, we got to build another simulation. All those things were at a point where it was like, if it doesn't, we'll be in real trouble fast, because we were putting everything back in to keep growing at such a high rate.
I would say for me, an event that comes to mind was the first time we made the Inc. 5000, and we were in the top 300. And it was like, for us, you kind of sit back and you think, okay, one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the country out of Rexburg, Idaho, right? And so I think there's unique product or service, or like unique distribution channel. In a lot of ways, we had both, because you're selling to professors, but they don't actually buy the product. They're requiring their students to purchase it semester after semester. And the talent that like kept coming through our doors that we were able to hire as a result, like we were turning a lot of people away, people wanting to come and be a part of it. And so I think there's just something unique about that. And I would say right around that time frame, I don't know, it was a few years in, but like, and then every year after that, we kept hitting that list. And for me, it was just like this, we all went together as an executive team down to San Antonio, met some of the other company owners, and it was just like, oh wow, we're playing with some of these like up and comers or that have been around a long time, and we're holding our own. So I think for me, that was when it kind of was a turning point.
Last question. Tanner Stenquist. Oh, sorry, I introduced you.
That's all right, Tanner Stenquist. My question is, if you could share an experience from the beginning when you started of something that you failed at, what you learned from that experience, and then how you changed Stuken for the better.
Oh man.
Listen, it's like really a lot. Sounds strange, but like we didn't have a lot of fail. Like the market that we were in, cut this out, boring professors, resume recording, right? Like the market that we were in was just boring. The marketing that was being done from the States, boring. And so for a long time, it was so easy to get.
We literally went from 0 to 10 and 10 to 100 in the first year. And then we went from 100 to 300 and 300 to 500 professors, like from year 1 to year 2 and 2 to 3. It was really fast growth where all that growth made it feel like we weren't failing, but there were lots of little failures, email blasts that, professors would cuss us out literally in reply. We got those kind of failures. But we, or sending an email that says, hi, first name. We had some of that stuff. I'm sure we had sales reps that accidentally oversold or undersold, but we were really blessed in the growth stage. I'll share a couple of failures that I can think of. Failure number 1 for me was not putting a little bit more value on the second round. I raised money in 3 rounds, all series seed A, B, and C. And in round 1, I really needed the money and I needed to give up equity for it. In round 2, I raised money at a valuation that was only about 2 times top line, but businesses in our space traded at more than 5 times top line. And so I was undervaluing the business. That made it so I then gave up more equity. So a little bit of a mistake on my part there. At the same time, it was a blessing in disguise because it meant that my field goal posts weren't so far out. When you raise money at a really high valuation, say a $10 million valuation, for an investor to get a 10x return, you have to grow that business to 100 million, right? That's not easy. And it's really hard to get there. And if you don't get there, then people are disappointed, right? And so I rested easier sooner knowing that my investors were at least going to double their money on this thing, right? So I would have done that. Another mistake I made was not having a good contract early with my software engineers in Romania. And Trevor and I ended up having to fly to Romania to try to negotiate better terms. And we thought for sure that after spending some time with them and touring Dracula's castle, which was also called Bran Castle in Romania, it was beautiful. I thought for sure that they would be more reasonable with us, but they would not change on the terms at all. And we explained to them how if you stick to these terms, it won't work for our business, and we'll have to find another way to deliver a simulation if you can't come down on the royalty rate for you guys supporting and building our simulation. And we came home from that trip, and I was scared to death, losing a lot of sleep, and messaged the investors and let them know we have to make another investment in our own simulation because we can't get better terms with the folks in Romania that we really liked, wanted to work with. 2 of the 3 were a lot easier to work with than the one that was in charge. And at the end of the day, it was a mega blessing in disguise, but I would have, if I had just set much better terms earlier for our business, it could have helped us a lot. Some of that stuff, when you're just young and getting started and going and trying to do so much, you're gonna miss the mark and make some mistakes. And then it's just a matter of, like all founders do, to just keep finding a way to win and overcome each hurdle. So, do you want to add to it?
Well, you want me to do the sales side?
Yeah.
I mean, so from a sales perspective, it was like, I think there were only a couple closers for far too long. Like, we could have had account executives in much sooner with our demographic specifically, because we had primarily college students selling to professors who are very comfortable with college students, right? So mistakes were made, things were said, and they were forgiving because it's like, these are the kids I deal with every day. And so in a lot of ways, the types of talent that we hired lended itself really well to our market. And maybe if we had more polished individuals, they may not have come across the same way, and there may not have been some of the latitude that a lot of our target market gave us. But we had sales scripts down before they started doing their own demos. They had a script, and you followed the script. So it's most of the people on our team were talented enough to follow a script, and then from there you kind of tweak and adjust to your personality. But I think we didn't do that soon enough. We didn't grow the team fast enough. I remember out the gate, we didn't even have resources for our textbooks. It was just the textbook. And I remember coming to Stu and Jeff Larson. It was we need to have a syllabus, slide decks, quiz banks, all this stuff. And they're like, they have the textbook. And so it was this transition to courseware.
Yeah, we were done with the textbook, and we were like, dude, we just wrote 12 chapters. Give us a break. And it should be plenty. It's better than what else is out there. That was enough for us in our minds. And Brandon, I think, is the one that helped me connect with Rich Babson. And Rich, on a call while I was driving to Rexburg, was like, dude, I'll adopt this once you do lesson plans and quizzes, but I don't want to do all that work. I love your text. I think it's good work, but I don't want to do all that. And I can tell you, I'm telling you because I care. I think what you built is awesome, but I'm speaking not just on my behalf, but on behalf of all of your potential customers. You got to go do that. So that was really motivating for me. And so just got to listen to customers.
Yeah, your front lines, those that are interacting with the customers, they're going to see the friction points that you need to adjust. But I think also entering the high school market, it was because high school teachers started to come our way. We want to use this. And we were reluctant at first. And the high school market could be an Inc. 5000 company on its own. So I just think you have to look for those opportunities, and you got to know when not to be distracted. But I would say fail fast, quickly make those mistakes and adjust instead of kind of sitting on your hands and thinking through every last reason why it could go
wrong. Okay, that's a wrap for this live recording of Startups with Stu. Thanks for being with us today. Brandon, Trevor, thanks for being with us. And to all of you, appreciate you being here at our retreat. Hoping that lots of future events get us back together in the future.
Hey, founders, entrepreneurs, investors, and other listeners of Startups with Stu. Thank you thank you for listening to this episode today. As I mentioned at the beginning, as I mentioned in the middle, I want to take a second again at the end and say, if you haven't yet and you're considering a podcast, go check out podallies.com. They sure help me a lot with the show. And I am so grateful for all that they do to help me accomplish Startups with Stu and get it out to the world so we can help more founders and take your startup to the moon. Go check out podallies.com and podup.com if you're interested in podcasting at any level.
Thanks for joining me on Startups with Stu. We have big goals to help millions of entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to share it with someone else that needs to hear it, or leave a review. Remember, success is within reach for those who dare to dream big and take action. Until next time, keep pushing forward on your entrepreneurial journey.